Hey, it's Tori, and welcome to, or welcome back to my channel. Today we welcome the wonderful Charlotte Wessels to the channel. How are you doing today, Charlotte?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I've been really excited to get to chat with you about this brand new album, of course, The Obsession, which is out on September 20th via Napalm Records. You have had a few singles out so far from this new album. How have you found the response from your fan base or from people that might now just be discovering you with these new releases?
I've been really happy with the response so far. I think people seem to be either really liking it or disliking it for reasons I don't mind about, like, oh my God, they're wearing pink wigs.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, no, I've been really psyched so far. Yeah, so far the responses really are anything I could have hoped for. So I'm happy, especially since, we rolled out The Exorcism first, which wasn't like the obvious choice. So
hmm
I'm happy about it.
Yeah, no, I was when you released that song, and then of course I knew you did harsh vocals, but then I heard them in that context of that song. I was like, whoa, what is this? I absolutely adored it, and I loved that direction that you were taking things in, and I love that you went with the riskier take for that being your first single from what we've heard so far. I was wondering if you could tell us in your own words what the album is about and what it represents for you.
Well, I think I think in February this year, I sat down and I looked at all the songs that I thought,
hmm
these are definitely going to make it to the album. And then I thought I'll just write down what every song is about, and I'll give myself like one sentence. And that's kind of when I found out that all of these songs kind of have to do with, either fear and intrusive thoughts or like the escapes from them. So yeah, it wasn't really intended as like uh a theme album or like a concept album, but it turned out that it did have a really prominent concept about it, which is why it's called The Obsession also.
Yeah. No, I understand that because obviously you take inspiration from real life things and things that have been going in your life, and that's why I love you because you're not afraid to talk about that stuff, or rather sing about it and put it into form of music, and also that makes the audience connect more. I think when you're a bit more raw and a bit more real, and while you may necessarily not have meant to do it that way, I guess that's what life was like. It must have meant to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's always like a choice involved. Like I probably could have had the same songs with the same topics and not connected to, because I have quite deliberately connected it to the fact that I was diagnosed with OCD a few years back, and that,
hmm
that's where part of my obsessive thoughts come from. And, I could have probably released dopamine without saying that it's about the feeling of numbness that I got from my antidepressants and stuff. But then I also thought I often write the songs with this idea of, um, if I'm feeling this way, what would I want to listen to now that would make me feel better? And
hmm
then that's what I'll try to work on. So um yeah, I thought I'd make it explicit, if even if in the last place someone feels like less alone through that. Yeah. But yeah, it does feel a little bit vulnerable, and I have had doubts about it at point, but yeah, so far it feels good to do so.
Yeah, it feels good as a listener, to be honest, because I don't have that talent to write lyrics or to write music. I'm just a consumer, and just knowing that there are others in the world that are going through something similar or have something similar, like you said with your OCD, you'll have many people out there that will connect with you with that, and just being, like you say, vulnerable enough to put that out there and I think it's important to talk about mental health, especially in today's day and age where it shouldn't be a stigma anymore and it should be talked about, whether that's through your art or through you're big on your Patreon. And of course, you mentioned Dopamine with Simone, which was absolutely gorgeous. And you also have another collab with Alyssa. How did those collabs come about and how did you choose Simone and Alyssa?
With Simone, it was kind of a full circle moment because we've known each other for a very long time. Obviously, you know, it's a small world, the music industry. You tend to run into each other, and but I feel like we really connected at one point, and this was actually after the first time that I spoke out publicly in an interview about, you know, being on the antidepressants, what it was doing
Mm-hmm.
to me, and how I kind of was feeling and dealing with things. Um, and then she texted me and we connected and we hung out and we did collaborations following that. So, and then at one point I wrote Dopamine about that experience. And again, straight away I got a text like I had it on repeat and I like this song. And so I thought if this is ever going to make it to an album, then I'll definitely ask her. And it felt like kind of a full circle moment to have her here. She recorded it here. And it was so lovely also after kind of all that introspection that, you know, we went through before to then have this moment of recording the video and wearing pink wigs and, you know, in a ball pit, was absolutely wonderful. One of the most fun video recordings that I've had, definitely. Um, and with Elisa, we have a very long history of doing collaborations, and I always love working with her. She's amazing. And we have like a running theme going through the collaborations where all of the songs that we've done, like way until back until the first one with Tragedy of the Commons with Delane, like all of the songs, um, actually, Tragedy of the Commons might be the only exception, but all of the songs after that are based on like classical poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And this one as well is based on a poem by the same name, Ode to the West Wind by Percy Shelley. And and I thought it fit so wonderful into kind of the theme that we had going with the songs we've done so far. Like on Tales from 6 Feet Under, we did Lizzie, which was based on a poem by Elizabeth Siddal. We've done a few based on Oscar Wilde with Fool's Parade, like the beginning of this year. So I thought it would be like such a wonderful addition to our oeuvre. And I could already imagine like how her vocals and her screams would sound like
Mm-hmm.
in the heavy riffing parts. So I'm really happy that she made it happen. She had some challenges around that time and she really moved heaven and earth to make it happen. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear the song. Like, just, I mean, of course, we've heard you together, as you said before, but just hearing it in this way with your new music and with the band setup that you have right now, of course, that was also another question of mine was how did you get back together with some of your ex band members to then have them be part of this solo album?
Well, last year or almost 2 years ago by now, we already did the live shows around the Tales from 6 Feet Under records.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, after the split, we kept hanging out a lot, and I did the records down in my basement. You know, we talked about it, and at one point I was thinking about doing it live, and um, I didn't ask them straight away. Like I was nervous too because I thought that after the split, like the only kind of way that we would probably work together would be if it was like in a more traditional band sense. And of course, I had already written all of these songs and I wanted to perform these songs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they said to me, like, you know, we'd be happy to perform these songs, right? And I was like, so yeah, and the experience of being on a stage with them again and performing with them again. Of course, it was very different back then because all of these songs, they weren't even made to be played live. Like I was
Mhm.
just messing around in my basement trying to teach myself production.
Right.
Um, and but still it was so wonderful to perform all of these songs together live that yeah, there was no doubt in my mind that if I was going to do a new album, that I really wanted to involve them in that. And it also influenced the way that I was writing the songs from, you know, from our very first rehearsals on, when I was working on new songs for the Patreon. Like there's exceptions. Sometimes I'll still do other things, but like a lot of the times when I'm working on something and I think this is really cool, I'll be making different choices. Like I'll be making choices that will allow the band to play it, you know.
Mhm.
If I can choose, like, is this going to be a harp or is this going to be a guitar? Most definitely is going to be a guitar. So yeah, so it grew from those live shows again, and it's absolutely wonderful. And their involvement in this record has made it so much better. And it was such a wonderful experience. I'm really yeah, I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, even in the music videos alone, where you guys are filming and stuff, you can tell you just have such a fantastic connection. Like everybody seems happy to be there and to be together. And Joey even reached out and after some of my reactions and was like, "Thank you," and that just melted my heart as a consumer because he didn't have to do that, and it was a really nice moment. So I'm really happy that you guys could get back together and as you say, perform these songs. And you did talk a little bit about the creative process, but I was wondering if you could delve into that a little bit more with how that looks, because obviously with your Patreon it's a little different than say in a traditional band sense where you have like a certain amount of time, whereas these songs, obviously you have a song of the month that you do every month, and these songs came from that, and then you sort of rewrote them, if that's my understanding, to fit the band.
Yeah, so what happened is basically like from May 2020 on, I've been doing that Song of the Month. I just got the mix in for this month's Song of the Month.
Hmm.
I'm still going. I think it's 53 or 54 at this point.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so still going, still going. Um, and so with the previous albums with Tales from 6 Feet Under, uh, I made the Song of the Month. I put it on Patreon, and then I put them together on a record, and that was it. So I made the Song of the Month, and that was kind of the end of it. And exactly with this record, I made the Song of the Month in a similar way. Um, but that was kind of the beginning of things. Already in this process, like I mentioned earlier, like already in this process, from the moment that, you know, we started playing with the band again, like I kind of already started writing differently uh, before that. But yeah, it still began here. I made the song, and then we kind of started this rewriting, rearranging process where, you know, at the one hand, because I make the song in such a small time frame, often I'll still be thinking this still kind of needs a bridge. This still kind of needs to be longer. This still kind of needs, so there will just be things where I think like this can be improved upon from what it was as a Patreon version. So that's kind of what I started with, and then I went into this rearrangement process with Timo, where, you know, he took my MIDI guitar parts and make a Timo guitar part, you know, which is
Yeah.
about the biggest difference that one can get. But you know, it also looked as the arrangement as a whole for the band and how it would fit together. That made like a huge impact on the song. Like songs, I I think that I put in some more like proggy elements, and he kind of took that and made it like even bigger, which I really really love. So that was really wonderful. At that point we kind of made like a pre-production. So we had like the Patreon version, then we had the pre-production that we went into the studio with.
Hmm.
Then the first step, what we did when we actually started recording was that we were in the studio all together at the drum recording. So we did record our things separately, but in the first step, we were all together to kind of test drive the new parts, see if it all worked together the way that we thought it would, and then to also have Joey have that band feel and respond to the others while he was recording his drums. And I think that within this genre, and there's no shame in that, it's a stylistic thing. But in this genre, what happens a lot is that when the drums are recording, like there is loads and loads of processing and like getting everything like exactly on on the grid. Something um, that I really wanted is to keep as much as possible of that vibe that we had in those in that initial band session,
Hmm.
keep that, and then everyone recorded on that. As for myself, and that's nice because that means that you kind of get that organic feel anyway, even though in the end everyone kind of records in their own time, with
Hmm.
their own focus. So that was a really conscious choice that kind of helped getting things a lot more organic, I think. And then as for myself, like of course I had already sang the songs. um I did change some lyrics here and there, nothing too major though. And I started out thinking that I would re-record all of the vocals. Um, and I did this together with Oliver Phillips, who I've worked with a lot in the past. But in the end, I re-recorded a portion of the vocals and a portion I already also kept from the original takes, because there's just something about singing the song as you write it, where you kind of experience the effect of, the melodies and
Hmm.
lyrics the first time, that is hard to replicate. So yeah, so we did that, and then we kind of had, the cherries on top of the cake, which was like the guest vocals, the gospel choir. Oh, and something that I should mention, which had like a big effect, of course, in the key department, we also had Sophia, who recorded like on the grand piano on the Hammond. But then we also had Vikram Shankar involved. And he, like in the beginning, I thought, I'm quite happy with, the key things that I did and the orchestrations that I did. And maybe I'll just ask him for one or two songs to make, some big orchestrals where it's needed. I got those songs back and they completely knocked me over. Like I was so excited about it. So in the end, I gave him all the songs, and he worked wonders. And it was also a pleasure working with him. Like in the beginning, I would send like lengthy emails of, I had this in mind and this and that, and could you do this? And then I even sent like mood boards with like visuals of what I wanted the songs to feel like. And then in the end, I was just like, here's the song, do your thing, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a big, beautiful process with lots of talented people involved. Guido Albers mixed it. He's mixed all of my songs of the month. He has a great understanding of what I really like, or my taste is what I like to hear, but also of the things that I would like, but I don't know how to get there. Timo was actually also very involved, even in the mix and the master, like always just a phone call away, as obsessed about all of the details as I was. So it was a beautiful, beautiful process. And then the final step was, of course, in the master, which was also amazing. So it was all really cool.
It makes me happy just knowing, like, just seeing you smile about it and talk about this process, and it's still
Yeah.
being like nothing. It doesn't sound like anything felt forced. It just felt like everything fell into place how it was supposed to be, and now you've got this amazing record that like. Of course, I've only heard the singles so far. I'm so excited to listen to it from beginning to end. How you've laid it out with that storyline behind it, and just really delve deep into it, and it makes me happy that it was not an easy process, but it was easier than it probably could have been, you know, and nothing was forced. And it just like makes me happy because you're one of my favorite vocalists. Like you have such an iconic voice within yourself. Like somebody can put on something that you're on. I'm like, yep, that's Charlotte. I can recognize your voice, and it's just really nice. So of course, with the Patreon and you doing the song of the month, how do you keep yourself from not burning out from doing that?
Uh, yeah, I have to cut myself some slack every now and then. Like I try to I still do the song of the month every month, but for example, this month I had so little time to actually do the song of the month, and that kind of guides my creative decisions as well. So for this month, I was like, if I don't have a lot of time, I'd rather do like a small song, like
Hmm.
maybe just piano and vocals, than something really big and then half-ass it, you know? So,
Right.
um, yeah, I try to kind of have those choices make it manageable. But there is a lot on my plate to the fact that my partner is now he has a second job on this as well. Like, we have the production, we have the preparations for the tour, we have to figure out merch, we have to figure out publishing. Like there's so much there's so much to it.
Hmm.
So yeah, um it's a lot. I haven't figured out, like, I always think, how are we going to do this long term? But by now we've done it for quite a long time, so I guess I guess we'll be fine.
Yeah. I think it just blows me away that someone like yourself, as you say, you've got so much going on behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see, yet you're still able to put something out, even if it's just something simple. Because, like you say, you don't want to put something out that you're just half-assing. Like it's because people will hear that within the song, and it's like, what is this? Like, what's going on? And I'm glad that you don't do that. I'm glad you don't put that pressure on yourself to go ahead and put something fancy and huge out there when you're not feeling that. I think it's good to take care of your mental health that way. And of course, you've had your Patreon for quite some time now. You started it way before COVID happened. How do you think it's evolved over this time?
Yeah, yeah, for me it was actually, I was lucky because I had the Patreon prepared for a long time. I did actually start it. Well, it was May 2020, so COVID
Hmm.
had started. I was like right in the starting blocks. Then COVID hit. Then I thought maybe I should wait for a little bit because, people are at home, people can't work. It's a strange time to be asking people for money.
Yeah.
Um, but then at one point I thought, I am not sure if I can wait until this goes away. So then I thought I will launch it anyway. And I'm very happy that I did because obviously it took a lot longer than anyone expected. And I know that a lot of people were thinking a few months in, like, okay, this is not going away, what are we going to do? And then if you have to plan to set something like that up, like I had already planned it. Like, when I started, I had a few songs written in advance, so I had my first few months kind of rolled
Hmm.
out. I knew what I wanted to do. I had been, visiting Patreon and their San Francisco headquarters. Like, I was like ready. um and I think still, even though but I still think that it's been able to help a lot of people, like, through through such a difficult time in, the world, but also the music industry, entertainment industry, where, nothing was possible. And I hope that a lot of people maybe stick with it as well, because it's such a great platform to be more self-sufficient in a way. And
Hmm.
I think that, especially if we're talking about burnout and, kind of managing um, life, work things, one of the things that I really like about Patreon is that rather than having like a crowdfunding action for one thing, which is also wonderful. And I've also done that, and it's great, and it really, really helped. But it's not so much about I want to make this thing. It's about I want to live and continue to make things and live, it's a continuous thing, which I think is really nice.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to put that money that you're gaining from Patreon back into yourself and your music. Like you say, I watched the video, I think it was from about a year ago or something that you put out, and you were saying that you've been able to pay makeup artists, costume designers, all kinds of different people that you can then get involved within you and like your small business, if you will. And it's just really nice to see that. And that leads me on to my next question of course, your concepts for your music videos. You've had some absolutely gorgeous styling, like the wigs, the dress, the corsets. Oh my, those corsets were beautiful. How do you come up with those concepts for your music videos?
It's always a process. Often I will have like a very sometimes I'll have like a core concept, like I want this to be the feeling and I want these sorts of visuals. Sometimes I'll have a whole storyline, like with Afkick, and I was like, I want monsters, I want a cult, I want dancing. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, so it kind of depends, and then it depends on who I'm working with, because if you work with Tim Tronku, like the first two videos, he worked together with Claire from Blond en Blauw Films for that one. Um, often there's going to be a more photographic approach, where you build a certain setting and that kind of moves. Whereas if you work with a company like Video Inc., like there it's really story based, So often I'm glad to know so many great artists that you can work with, and often kind of like the concept that I have in mind kind of decide, who you're gonna call.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, you build it from there. I'm a big Pinterester. Like I make
Same.
I lots of mood boards, and I like to write out concepts, and yeah, but it's a lot of it is in the collaboration with the several artists, and then also when you involve like stylists. Sometimes sometimes I just rent a lot of pieces, because like these pieces are very expensive to own, and I also like the fact that that they get used multiple times for multiple
Mm-hmm.
things. I like to rent pieces for shoot. Um, Often you rent something and then it comes together in a way that I couldn't even have imagined like beforehand. So yeah, it's a matter of things coming together in the right way, like planning a lot and then things coming together in the right way. Yeah, I've got another shoot next week, so I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Like you mentioned Tim, and he's been one of my personal favorite photographers in this sort of industry. And just seeing the creative concepts and the makeup and the styling that goes into those photo shoots, and of course he did the promotional stuff for your album, and it's just I love like the long black wig, the red dress, and it just everything coming together. And it's just really cool like seeing all of these different creative minds coming together and working together on something like this. So it's awesome. I'm not going to keep you too much longer because I know you probably have more interviews to go to. You have your release show, of course, on October 4th. I'm going to let you say where that's at because I will absolutely butcher it.
It's at Tivoli Vredenburg, which is a wonderful venue in my hometown of Utrecht. Yeah, in the
So you
Netherlands.
have, yeah, you have that coming up. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling very excited about it. We've done a production day last week and it all went really smooth, and all of our stuff works. Like we have new gear. We have a great crew, and the band's prepared. So I cannot wait. I cannot wait for that, and then to go on tour again for the first time in such a long time with Vola.
Yeah. I was going to ask what your rest of year plans were so that you could let people know.
Yeah, we got a month's tour with Vola lined up, which is amazing. I'm a big fan of Vola, so that's going to be exciting for many reasons. And then also like I haven't been on a long tour for years,
Hmm.
so I'm sort of nervous too, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, you'll get a couple of days into it and be like, yes, this is it. I can do it. I'm here. I'm gonna kick ass and I'm gonna be amazing because
I,
I
I hope so.
I'm sure you will. You will. You'll do amazing. Do you have any last words for anybody watching this interview of just thanks or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone who's checking out the songs, I hope you like it. Thanks for your interest. And yeah, it would be great to finally see people on the road again. So if you have a possibility to, that would be wonderful. But yeah, just thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Charlotte, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here today. Of course, guys, The Obsession is out September 20th via Napalm Records. I will leave that pre-order link down below in the description, as well as all of the links where you can find Charlotte on her social medias, on her YouTube. You know, of course, go and support her on those, on her Patreon as well. It really, really does help. Again, thank you so much, Charlotte. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today.
So much, was lovely talking to you.
Bye, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to become a Taurian. Speaking of becoming a Taurian, all of my social media links and my Discord link are down in the description. We'd absolutely love to have you come hang out in the Discord community, and I will see you guys in the next video. Rock on.